The glass-walled boardroom of Sterling International stretched across the top floor of the skyscraper like a cathedral to wealth, its marble floors reflecting the cold elegance of power, the skyline beyond gleaming in the midday sun, a stage set for men who measured worth in billions and scorned anyone who walked in without the right suit, the right car, the right pedigree, and in that icy arena of power sat Charles Sterling, billionaire magnate, untouchable in his own mind, a man who had inherited privilege and then sharpened it with ruthless acquisitions, a man who believed the world itself could be bought if the price was right, and yet across from him sat a man who did not belong in their eyes, David Morales, a single father with nothing more than his briefcase, his determination, and a life carved out of hardship, his shirt neatly ironed but not designer, his shoes scuffed but solid, his posture calm and his expression unreadable even as the air bristled with the subtle laughter of men and women who thought they were better, who looked at him and saw not a competitor but an outsider, someone to be dismissed, mocked, and crushed before he even opened his mouth. But David had learned long ago that silence was sometimes the sharpest weapon, and when Sterling leaned back with his signature smirk, swirling the amber liquid in his glass as though he were already bored of the man across from him, his voice dripping arrogance as he said, "So, Mr. Morales, tell me, what exactly makes you think you can negotiate global contracts for my company when you come from, where was it again? Some community college? A janitor's job? Do you have any idea who sits in this room right now?" The board erupted with soft laughter, a few executives whispering behind manicured hands, others hiding smirks, and Sterling himself chuckling as if the meeting were a show put on purely for his amusement, but David did not flinch, his eyes steady, his jaw relaxed, and when he finally spoke his voice carried the weight of quiet confidence, "Because I speak 9 languages fluently," and the moment the words left his lips, the laughter doubled, one executive choking on her mineral water, another leaning forward to sneer, "9? Did you just say 9? What are you, a walking dictionary?" And Sterling roared with laughter, slapping the table, shaking his head as though he'd just heard the best joke of the year, 9 languages. My God, what's next? Do you juggle knives and breathe fire as well? This isn't a circus, Morales, this is billion-dollar business. But David leaned forward, his eyes sharpening just enough to slice through the smugness in the room, and his voice dropped an octave, calm but unyielding. "It's not a trick, Mr. Sterling, it's survival, and it's the reason I can do what none of your Ivy League graduates can." And before Sterling could interject with another insult, David shifted seamlessly into Castilian Spanish, his tongue rolling with the grace of a Madrid native, then softened the tone into Andalusian inflection, fluid and natural, before pivoting into Latin American Spanish, his cadence shifting like water changing course, and at the far end of the table, the Spanish-born executive who had been stifling laughter went pale, sitting up straight and whispering, "Madre mia. He speaks better than half my family," and suddenly the chuckles died down, replaced by a tense silence, but Sterling, unwilling to lose control, scoffed loudly, "All right, anyone can memorize a few phrases of Spanish, try something that actually matters, Mandarin perhaps?" And without missing a beat David's voice transformed, his tones crisp and perfect, his Mandarin so sharp it could cut through glass, fluidly introducing himself, stating Sterling's company motto, and then casually weaving into a proverb so culturally precise that the Chinese investment advisor in the room gasped, pen slipping from his fingers, muttering in disbelief, "Not even half of our staff speaks that well." But David wasn't finished, because as their astonishment grew, he pivoted into Cantonese, the tonal maze navigated with flawless precision, his voice carrying not just the sounds but the soul of the dialect, and the silence in the room deepened into awe, the very walls seeming to lean in to listen, while Sterling, who had begun the meeting laughing, now sat frozen, his smirk flickering, his glass untouched, his arrogance eroding like sand under waves, but still clinging to bravado. He muttered, "So you've got Spanish and Chinese, fine. Party tricks, but business is done in English and money, nothing else." And David locked eyes with him, his voice low but resonant, "With respect, sir, money may open doors, but language keeps them open. I have been the bridge between men ready to kill each other. I've saved deals worth more than gold because I could speak the right word at the right time. I've carried my daughter through cities where no one spoke English and survived because I connected when others could not, and every language I speak isn't just a line on a resume, it's a lifeline, one that your company doesn't realize it desperately needs. And for the first time in years Charles Sterling had no clever reply, his tongue stilled, his mind flashing with the realization that this man he had mocked carried something none of his wealth could buy. And then the room held its breath as David, now in full control, began listing the rest of his arsenal: French, Arabic, Russian, Portuguese, German, Japanese, Swahili. Each one delivered in its native rhythm, each one flawless, each one striking like a hammer against the brittle arrogance of billionaires who had thought themselves above him. And by the time his voice faded, the silence in the boardroom was so complete that even the ticking of the clock seemed deafening, the executives staring as though witnessing something that had rewritten the very rules of power. And in that silence Charles Sterling realized he had begun the meeting laughing at a single father. But now he sat in shock before a man who had just proven that true wealth sometimes came not from money but from the resilience of survival, the wisdom of hardship, and the strength to turn every scar into a story, every word into a bridge, and every language into power no empire could dismiss.